friends, in today's video I want to share with you a very special recipe. Now, this recipe is one of Indiana's famous recipes. If you're from Indiana, more than likely you have eaten this particular food. But I am an exception to that. Basically everyone in my house is an exception to that. I've lived in Indiana my entire life and I have never, in my knowledge, to my knowledge, eaten this food. It is the Indiana State Pie, and it's called Hoosier Sugar Cream Pie. I've never ever tasted it. So I thought, you know, it's about time I tried this pie. And so I'm going to make this recipe for the very first time today, and I am going to taste it. Now, the main ingredients in the Hoosier Cream Pie is, you guessed it, cream, milk, and cream. And being that Olivia and I have to be dairy-free, I am going to make this with coconut milk. The coconut milk that I have does not taste like coconut, so I don't think it's going to taste like a coconut cream pie, but it may not taste authentic to what a Hoosier cream pie typically tastes like. Now, you may ask, what on earth is a Hoosier? Well, a Hoosier is someone who is from Indiana. But where did that come from? Where did that name come from? We've been called Hoosiers since the 1800s, basically since the state became a state. And there are several theories as to what Hoosier means. I went to the Indiana Historical Bureau website, and this is what they say the word Hoosier means. There are 5 examples or theories, or what people think Hoosier means and why people from Indiana are called Hoosiers. So number 1, when a visitor hailed a pioneer cabin in Indiana or knocked upon its door, the settler would respond, "Who's there?" And from this frequent response, Indiana became the Hoosier or Hoosier state. No one ever explained why this was more typical of Indiana than of Illinois or Ohio. Number 2, the Indiana rivermen were so spectacularly successful in trouncing or hushing their adversaries in the brawling that was then common that they became known as hushers and eventually Hoosiers. Number 3, there was once a contractor named Hoosier. Now this is the one that I think is the most likely, this particular reason. There was once a contractor named Hoosier employed on the Louisville and Portland Canal who preferred to hire laborers from Indiana. They were called Hoosiers men, and eventually all Indianians were called Hoosiers. I think that's probably the most likely, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. Number 4, a theory attributed to Governor Joseph Wright derived Hoosier from an Indian word for corn, hoosa. Indiana flatboatmen taking corn or maize to New Orleans became known as hoosa men or Hoosiers. Unfortunately for this theory, a search of Indian vocabularies by a careful student of linguistics failed to reveal any such word for corn. That's very unlikely. And then the 5th theory is quite as plausible as these was the fastidious explanation offered by the Hoosier poet James Whitcomb Riley. He claimed that Hoosier originated in the pugnacious habits of our early settlers. They were enthusiastic and vicious fighters who gouged, scratched, and bit off noses and ears. This was so common an occurrence that a settler coming into a tavern the morning after a fight and seeing an ear on the floor would touch it with his toe and casually ask, "Whose ear?" I don't think that's it. As Meredith Nicholson observed, the origin of the term Hoosier is not known with certainty, but certain it is that Hoosiers bear their nickname proudly, that is for sure. Many generations of Hoosier achievement have endowed the term with connotations that are strong and friendly. And I agree with that. There's not the big brawling men in Indiana that bite off ears. That doesn't make the news around here. But I do think Hoosiers are very friendly people. And if you don't live in Indiana, but you have a chance to come here, I would suggest that you come to Indiana and check out the Hoosier State. So on to the cream pie. So what you want to do is you want to dry bake your crust. And I just use the crusts from Walmart. I just really can't be bothered to make my own crust. I could do it if I want to, but I don't really want to, honestly. And the crusts from the store are tasty, so it saves you a lot of time. And the way that you dry bake a crust is you just put it in your pan and you go ahead and form the edges however you want to form them. If you want to flute them or just however your method of doing the edges of the crust. And then you're going to want to put a layer of aluminum foil, heavy duty aluminum foil inside here. It's just to keep the crust from getting too brown. And then you pour in pie weights if you have them, or you can use dry beans or uncooked rice. And I have dry beans that this is what they're for. I keep these beans specifically to bake in a pie shell, to dry bake pie shells. I don't use them that often, but I always keep them in the cupboard just for that reason. You're going to bake this for 8 minutes at 450 degrees. Then you're going to take out the foil and the weights and bake it again for 5 to 7 minutes until it is light golden brown. So while this is baking, I will put the filling together for you. So these are the ingredients you're going to need for this pie. It's very simple ingredients. You're going to need sugar, cornstarch, milk, and like I said, I'm going to be using coconut milk, butter, and I'm going to be using my avocado oil butter, vanilla extract, and I didn't realize I was running so low on the liquid vanilla, so I've got powdered, and I'll use a combination of both, cinnamon, and nutmeg. So in a saucepan on top of your stove, you're going to want to combine the sugar and the cornstarch. And it's 1 cup of sugar, and this is a 1/2 cup measure, so I'm going to do 2 of those. Now, if you know me, if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that I typically try to reduce the sugar and fat in my recipes. But since this is a recipe that I've never tried before, and because I'm trying to be as authentic as I can with this recipe and yet stay dairy free, I'm already making changes with the milk and the butter. I don't want to reduce the amount of sugar and butter in this time. Now, if I decide if our family really likes this pie and I decide to make it again, I may try reducing the sugar or, swapping out some stevia for it or whatever. But this time it's going to be full sugar, full fat. So that's 1 cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And I sure hope I have enough cornstarch. Exactly 1/4 cup. Oh, that's pretty awesome. So you're going to start off with your heat on high, and you're going to just use your whisk and combine your sugar and your cornstarch, and then you're going to slowly blend in 2 cups of milk. Like I said, this is coconut milk. Then you bring this to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, you reduce the heat and you boil it for 2 minutes or until it is thick and bubbly. Or thickened. It'll be bubbly because it's boiling, but until it's thickened. The reason this is the Indiana State Pie is because back in the pioneer days and when the settlers were coming into Indiana and, you know, starting their farms and things, they had very little in the way of berries or fruit or anything like that to have anything sweet. But most generally, they would have a milk cow, which would give them milk, cream, and butter. This recipe doesn't even have eggs in it because a lot of times the pioneers back in those days didn't have chickens. So they would still want a dessert from time to time, especially around Thanksgiving time. So they would make a pie with the ingredients that they had. And what they had was sugar, because they would generally stock up on that. And, you know, when they would go into town, they'd buy 100 pounds of sugar or whatever. And they would have milk, cream, and butter. And so that is how the Hoosier pie became the Indiana State Pie, is because it did not require any eggs or berries or apples or anything like that. And I'm sure that sometimes the pioneers didn't even have cinnamon or any kind of spice, and it may just have been sugar and milk thickened together. And they probably would have used flour. They probably would have made a roux with butter and flour as a thickener, because I don't even know if cornstarch was such a thing back in those days. But that is the origin of the sugar cream or the Hoosier cream pie and why it became our state pie. So I'm going to go ahead and let this cook till it is thickened, and I will bring you back when it's time to do the next step. So it is starting to thicken, but it has not actually started. There we go, it's boiling. So 2 minutes, Olivia, can you set the timer for 2 minutes? I'm going to let this cook for 2 minutes, or until thickened. So it's already starting to thicken, so you may not have to go the full 2 minutes. And this does actually kind of smell like coconut. That coconut milk is a little bit more coconutty than I first thought. So this may taste more like coconut cream than sugar cream, but oh well, so be it. I chose coconut because it's a little creamier. Has more of a cow milk consistency to it than almond milk does. So that's why I decided to go with the coconut milk. But thankfully my family likes coconut cream pie, so they'll probably like this. Anyway, they might like it even better than had it been just sugar and cream. So then you remove it from the heat and you add your butter, 1/2 cup, which is a lot. Like I said, it's taken all my willpower to not reduce the butter and sugar in this recipe because I'm so used to doing that. And then you want to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Like I said, I don't think, yeah, it might be just a teaspoon. So I won't worry about putting any of the powdered stuff in. And you also add in, it says 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, but I'm going to add just a little more than that because I really like cinnamon. That's probably more like 1/2 teaspoon. Once this is all combined thoroughly and the butter's nice and melted, you pour it into your pie crust. And you can sprinkle it with nutmeg. You can even use cloves if you like cloves, or ginger, any of those types of spices. but I decided to just go with nutmeg on top. Ouch, that's hot. And my crust did bubble up a little bit still, even though it was weighted. That's just the way it goes. Doesn't bother me. It's driving Olivia crazy because she's a perfectionist, but she's even a worse perfectionist than me, and that is saying something. Okay, so there's that. It smells good. It does smell good. I'll let you lick this spatula if you want to. Then I'm going to just take a little nutmeg, sprinkle that on top. I'm going to actually put it in my hand because I don't trust that shaker. Nutmeg is pretty strong, so you don't want to go crazy on it. Now, if you don't want your pie to look kind of brown like that, then just sprinkle the cinnamon on top and don't mix it in. But I wanted to just mix it in so you could have cinnamon throughout the whole thing. So then you pop this back in the oven and you bake it for another 15 or 20 minutes until it is golden brown. It already looks kind of golden brown. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven. When this is completely cool and we're ready to slice it, I'll bring you back. So it is several hours later now. We've had the pie in the refrigerator to get it nice and chilled. And we are going to, Olivia and I are going to enjoy it with some of this Ready Whip, coconut milk Ready Whip on top. Travis and Scott's probably not going to have any. He's not a giant sweets eater anyway, and I'm sure Travis will have some as well, but Olivia and I are going to give this a try. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the pie into pieces and dish out the first piece. This is what it looks like cut. Whoa, it wants to slide off my plate. Let me just turn it so you can see the side of it. There you go. And like I said, if you didn't mix the cinnamon in, I think it would be more of a creamy color, like a off-white color maybe. Who knows, since we had to use coconut milk. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this on. And we'll give this a taste test. I'm going to taste it off camera because it's already 7 o'clock at night and I washed my face, so I have no makeup on. I know you guys probably wouldn't care, but I don't like to be on camera without makeup on if I can help it. So here we go. Give this pie a try. That is really good. Tastes like cinnamon pudding, like a cinnamon pudding pie. That makes sense. It's really good. I do think next time if I make this again, I will cut the sugar down a little bit, because I do think that just about any dessert, especially here in America, that we have has way too much sugar in it. But I did want to do this according to the recipe the first time. But I think it definitely would still be just as good without so much sugar. Now personally, I cannot taste or detect any coconut flavor. Can you, Olivia? It just basically tastes like a cinnamon cream pie. That is really delicious. I can understand why this has become our state pie, because it is really, really good. So you don't have to live in Indiana to try the Hoosier Sugar Cream Pie. I would suggest that whatever state you live in, whatever country you live in, give this a try. And by giving this pie a try, I will consider you a Hoosier at heart. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Yum. This pie was
absolutely delicious, and I will definitely be doing it again. I am going to do it a little bit differently than the recipe called for, though. I will be cutting the sugar down and the butter down, and I'm also not going to bake it. I have a chocolate silk cream pie that I make almost exactly like I made this pie, up until the point where you bake it. You cook it on the stove with the sugar and the cornstarch and the milk, and with the chocolate pie, of course, you add chocolate to it, but then you cook it off, you take it off the stove, and then you just pour it into a pre-baked pie shell, and then let it chill in the refrigerator, and it comes out much creamier than this pie did. We kind of felt like it was too jellied. It was Travis said it was like cinnamon jelly. And so I think if you don't cook it in the oven, it will be creamier and not so jellied. So I'm going to try that next time, and I'll let you know if I like it better not baked.